Hi, I'm Brian Dunn, and welcome to the most important podcast ever. What makes it so important? It's not about me, it's about you. This podcast is about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, the moments of resilience, the lessons learned, and the small acts that made a big difference. From retail floors to boardrooms to unbelievable settings, we'll share the untold stories that shape lives and careers. This week, our guest is Dawn Bryant, and I have been looking forward to this episode for some time. I want to, Dawn is, in my view, a master communicator and has been for a long time. And I want to read you a small paragraph from her LinkedIn that really caught my attention. I am a mashup of 3 decades of diverse experience who is driven by belief in people in person. People and purpose. My life and business focuses are rooted in the power of telling stories that stem from the hearts of people's passions and hard work. Where there is heart in the work, the story is easy to tell and even more compelling for audiences to hear. In short, if you have a good and genuine story, I'm in. And from my experiences with Dawn years ago now, that is absolutely a beautiful capture of who she is as a professional. Hi, Dawn.
Hi, it's so good to be here, Brian.
I'm thrilled to have you here. So I took my clumsy attempt at introducing you there. Maybe you tell us how you like to introduce yourself.
You know, I like to introduce myself as someone who's just trying to live every ounce of life in the short time we're here. And I want to do that doing things I love. And so professionally, it's communication and storytelling and shining a light on people and their stories. And then personally, it's really just soaking in all the peace and the purpose and the life and the adventure in the process. And I think you can do both things at the same time.
I think you're proving that. One of the reasons I've been so excited about having you on is because you're doing something that I obsess about. I bet I'm following 6 or 7 people on Instagram right now that are living in vans and traveling around the country. And I'm probably following 10 or 15 people that are living RV, living their best life wherever they want to be. And I'm just curious, can I jump in by asking, and I'll try not to be too much of a fanboy about this, okay? What inspired you and Rodney to trade what looked like a really nice, comfortable life? I used to see you at Timberwolves games. I think you lived in the North Loop. Is that right?
Yep, we lived in the heart of the city. Went to all the
Yep.
Timberwolves games.
Yep. And you're so not in the heart of the city right now. So what persuaded you guys to make the switch? And maybe you could tell us about the switch.
You know, the easy part of that is just saying it ended up being a question of why not? There's literally no reason why we couldn't. The technology exists, our ability to connect with family and work and business, it wasn't reliant upon where we lived. And so there really wasn't a good reason. And when you dug into it, like financially, when you are take on this lifestyle, some people keep their homes, and that's really cool. We did not. So literally, our RV is our home. And I would say we didn't plan to do this, and it wasn't anything that we actually even knew was a dream until we started living it on a different level. We started out in a rooftop tent, just trying to get away and slow down our lives, heal our souls for one summer, and ended up spending 135 nights in a rooftop tent, working, living. I, it, and we couldn't stop talking about it or thinking about it. And that's when the question came like, but why can't we? And so now we've stepped it up a little bit. So we have our own bathroom with an RV. But Um, it was just that question because I think so many times I know I have, I'm sure I'm not the only one. We always say there's reasons why we can't. I can't because I have to wait until I have to wait. Why? Why are we waiting? Because life is too short.
Yeah. Our inner voices give us all the good reasons why not, why we can't do what we aspire to. And I love embedded in your answers, loud and clear, is we get one bite at this apple, and it's a lot shorter than we think. I feel like I went to bed one night and woke up and had white hair and 30 years had gone by, Really. And so, what have you learned? How does it feel to have that freedom? I guess is what I'm getting at. I think that's what I love.
I never even could have fathomed what it felt like, to be honest. And I think it's both freedom and peace, Brian, because there is nothing like having a stressful workday and being able to step outside and step into this. Nothing like that. Like it really centers you and it brings life into perspective. But the freedom, um, it's remarkable because instead of living for the weekend so we can take a weekend trip and go get to see something, we can do this on a Thursday night and be in the middle of Arches National Park. Um, and to know that if it's going to get cold, we can leave. If there's a need to go see family, we can take our whole home to our family. Um, I mean, it's not without its work, it comes with its own work, but I've never felt freer in my life, not just physically, but really free to be all of who I am.
I think that is so cool. And I'm wondering, how do you guys like? Let me just back up. One of the things the people I'm obsessed with, they drive to blizzards and they spending the blizzard in their RV. I'm obsessed with it. I really am. And I don't know why, because every video is just about the same, you know? But but I'm wondering, uh, do you tend to head towards warmer weather in the winter?
Um, this year we are. We're gonna head down to Florida. Uh, but the truth is, I really love the Gulf, and I have no desire to be there when it's 100 degrees. So,
Right,
um,
right, right.
I like to say we chase temperate weather. We don't like to be really hot. Um, nor do I don't mind snow. I just don't really want to shovel it anymore. I feel like I'm kind of done with that. But we chase temperate weather. That's a truth, and it is fun to watch the different ways for camping. We woke up one morning to a little bit of snow, and frankly, it's kind of fun. It's
Yeah, I
beautiful.
bet.
We got our
I bet.
fireplace. I mean, it's magic.
And do you stay in one place for 3 days, 5 days, a week, or do you just stay as long as you want?
We stay as long as we want, to be honest. And when you're working, I think that there is something for us that having the routine is important to build out in our workday. Like we're still responsible adults doing all the things that
Right, right.
we need to do. And so we prefer to stay in one region anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, but I say a region because we might move around. Um, and we do that so that we don't feel like we have to squeeze everything in. I don't want to be busy. I am done being busy. To be honest, I'm done with that. I want to wake up and move as fast or as slow as we want. And I don't want to feel like we have to squeeze all this stuff into our weekend so that we're exhausted for the rest of the week. There's no need for
Right,
that.
right.
So for us, we try and take it a little bit slower. But again, it's because we're fitting more into the day.
And what have you learned about working remotely and productivity? And how do you think about all that now? Because you're living it. I mean, you are full on living it.
We are full on living it. And back to the routine is really good. Um, productivity for me is something I never was really worried about because I've been on my own for a long time. That said, I have never been more productive than when I am in an afternoon, sunshine-filled outdoor environment like this, like the mountains up in Wyoming or Montana. Um, some people are like, "How do you work?" I would just stare at the water. Well, there's some of that too, but frankly, I get so much done because it just puts me in a s the zone. It puts me in the zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna say a meditative zone, but it's almost like a meditative work focus zone. There's not distractions.
So interesting. It's so compelling to me. And um, do you think most people can be more productive or as productive remotely?
Oh, I do. I'm a big believer in remote work. Um, that said, I'm also a big remote believer in relationships. So what we've learned on the road is we have to be very on purpose about building relationships, even when we're not in the same room. So remote work, I think, is absolutely doable. I think that in some cases, the pushback that's happening right now is just an a culture that is so unaccustomed to this being the norm. Yet when I look at what I get done in an hour versus what I used to be able to get done in, say, 6, you can't, eh, the you can't fight that. Like, I am more productive, which brings me more balance.
Right, right. Which that's so interesting, right? This freedom actually makes you more productive and brings you more freedom, right?
Mhm.
Isn't that what you're saying? And
That's exactly
I
what I'm saying.
and I think the pushback on this remote work or not remote work, people pushing against it, I think, are operating from an old paradigm of how it needs to be. People can't possibly be more productive when they're on their own. And you know what? You can measure the productivity. Dawn's either getting it done or she's not, right?
Exactly. I mean, I could be sitting at a desk in an office and daydreaming an hour away. Um,
Right.
or I can sit in front of this computer and pound something out in 20 minutes instead of it taking, 3 hours. I'd like for me, I just think that there's we'll get there as a culture, but I think
Yep.
it's gonna take time because it is so nuanced, and I do think, however, that the relationship part is super important. It
Yep.
has to be purposeful, but when you have that time with people and you're purposeful about it, it's far more productive. So if I'm having a conference call with somebody because we have to discuss something and I'm not able to be there with them, that hour is far more fruitful than just back and
Right.
forth. I The same is true for personal relationships. Like those phone calls to my mom or to our nieces, like they're precious because that's what we have.
Right.
Connectivity is easy and disconnectivity is a choice. Um, but
I
in
like
order
that.
to
I do. I
that's
really
how
like that.
and it's so true. And so disconnectivity is really important, but connectivity it's easy. It's up to us. And to me, connectivity is more than the technology that enables it. It's the desire to make it fruitful.
Yeah. I think that's a very powerful expression of it. Do you do you guys have many technical issues or do you kind of scope that out in advance?
We learned so much from our rooftop tenting days that we have it pretty much down to a science. We use Starlink, which is amazing. There's really no place we haven't been able to figure out connectivity. We've got backup batteries, we've got backup generators, we've got solar generators, and nothing that is too huge of an investment, but just enough to keep us going all the time.
Right. Right. And I so want a review on Starlink. We can do that offline, but I so interested because I've been thinking about that myself. Um, Let me ask you this. What do you miss about your stationary life? What do you miss about living in one place?
I think the ease of everything just being in place. And what I mean by that is I don't have to plan where my mail service is going to send my mail based on where I will be. Um, some places don't take Amazon orders, so you have to plan that when you're going to get a shipment. So I think that just the comfort and the ease of our very connected society and being able to get what you want when you want it, it's not like that on the road. You have to think ahead a little bit, and that may sound really tactical, but that's the thing I miss the most.
Interesting. That's interesting. I think there's a rhythm to all that too. And when you and I spoke on the phone earlier this week, I was fascinated by you've got to call the mail service, you've got to call this, and then you can coordinate where it's going to be. Of course you can, right? Of course.
There is something for everything, is what we've learned in
Right.
RV life, right down to the
That's
mail. Yep.
um what's something that you will not be able to give up from this life you have right now?
Honestly, it's the fresh air. And when I say the fresh air, I don't mean stepping outside um, in our North Loop apartment and looking at the skyline. That's really nice. But when you're living in a place where you feel small and powerful all at the same time, um, and there's such openness and I want to say oxygen, but just that feeling you get when you've taken that deep breath and you feel alive. That's what nature gives me. And so that's one thing I can't give up. I always knew I liked the outdoors. I never knew that it was my fuel. And I think it's probably like that for most people, but we don't give it a chance.
Yeah. I think there's something to that for sure. Do you look do you have to make reservations for camping spots? Do you
Sometimes.
okay, sometimes wherever you go, there you are.
It's true. So, I mean, when I say there's something for everything, I could give you a list of apps um, of all the ways that we look for camp spots. And I will say, if one of us is doing a good bit of traveling or if we have to fly out for something for work, we will go make sure we're at a full hookup place for safety reasons, right? To make sure
Of
everything
course.
is plugged in, I'm safe, Rodney's safe, the dog's safe. Uh, but our favorite spots are the ones that are completely disconnected, in the RV space they'd call boondocking or dry camping. We're not hooked up to any sewer or water. Our power is coming from our solar and a generator if we need it. But those are the places, Brian, when you wake up in the morning and you look out your window and the Tetons are right there and there's no one next to you on either side. Like
That
that is untoppable.
that's really cool. That's really cool. Do you guys ever find yourselves, hey, you know what? We need to go see some people.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Like the people in our lives or meet new people or
Or just have a bit of human contact?
oh, all the time. And you know what? Rodney is really good at getting me out of my shell with that. He makes more friends at campgrounds and I we will have the rundown for the whole area from locals and from other campers. But we try and do a good job of that because while serenity is very peaceful, this lifestyle also shows you the value, like I said, of
Yeah.
connection and being deliberate. And frankly, we've met some really cool people that we may never see again. Um, and some maybe we will, but a lot of the people we're meeting, it really underscores why we made this choice, Brian, because they are couples who are maybe a little older than us and maybe in their early 60s. But there's one couple last year, he had just bought a new rig and his wife had just been diagnosed with a terminal cancer and he had just had brain surgery. And after his wife was diagnosed, they decided to buy this RV because life was short and he didn't want to wait. And what we hear from a lot of other couples is, we wish we would have started when you started because now you have all the time and abilities in the world. And so these are the people we meet. These are the people, um, eh, they're amazing. And actually, it's one of the most, it's one of the coolest things because I think we take it for granted when we live in the culture that we live in right now, and that there's so much divisiveness. And when we're out in our rig and see other people camping or seeing other people enjoying the outdoors, our common ground is the survival in the rig or in the tent or on the trail. That becomes our common ground, and all of the things that divide us are gone. And it brings us together with people in a super unique way that I never thought would be a thing. The neighborliness and how we look out for people. If we pull into a campground, it's like having a full on 200 other neighborhood watch people looking out for you. Um, I've never experienced community like I experienced it on the road.
That's that's so interesting, and you're so. I think of you guys sort of like Lewis and Clark in the expedition. You all have this shared. It's so interesting. Um, do you ever run into people in a different place that you've seen on the road? Has that happened yet?
It hasn't happened yet, although we've come close because we've met some people and exchanged numbers or following each other on social media, and we realized that we just missed each other. I mean, we're new enough into this that I'm not surprised it hasn't happened, but now once we're starting to circle the calendar again, I
Yeah.
think we're going to see that. Mhm.
How long have you guys been on the road now?
Officially since June of 2024. And the summer before that was the rooftop camping summer. Yep.
And do you think I call it on the road? Do you think of it on the road?
Yes, most
Okay.
definitely. Our home is on the road, our life is on the road, um, and I love it that way. But that's exactly how we think about it.
I want to get into in a minute your some of the work you've done with communication because I do admire that. I'm not just having you on because I'm a fanboy of the life. How does your pup like the life?
I think she thinks this life was made for her. Um, she gets all the smells, all the walks, all the places. Every time we park the rig, she looks for the place where the sun's going to come in so she can find her sunspots. Uh, she thinks she's the princess of all things, and also she's with us all the time. So
It's
this is
awesome.
just, yeah, she loves it. She's the greatest little travel companion. She's only 9 pounds, so she's a little bit of a thing, but she's a great travel buddy.
That's awesome. I'd have to get a really big rig because I got a golden retriever and a newfie. I mean, I'd be
Oh, but they
yeah.
would love it. You just need room for them.
Yeah. Now, have you had to get you and Rodney had to get super, or maybe you were super good with your hands, good with repairing stuff, don't you? You have to be a bit of a MacGyver, don't you?
And you learn it. You learn the MacGyvering. You need to have, like, Rodney is super handy, especially technically. So that's really good since we're working, and are
Yeah.
often well connected. But you learn, and you also learn it's not rocket science. I say that about a lot of things, but it's really not. It's you look at it, you see the problem, something's leaking, that's where it's leaking. You go to Ace Hardware has become our best friend on the road. Every neighborhood has one, and they have everything. And you figure it out. As long as you build in that flexibility to your mindset, um, being able to deal with all the things, you just have to be ready for it.
Yeah. By the way, I love Ace Hardware. How can you not love it? And Ace, if you're listening, looking for a sponsor, love to talk to
I,
you.
I, I'm telling you, Ace Hardware in Granby, Colorado. That was Hannah's favorite one. They had everything, everything.
Yep. And I'm just going to go ahead and say Ace Hardware right down the block in Alexandria, Minnesota. Fantastic. Fantastic. I want to change gears a little bit and talk about your professional work with you're very accomplished, Dawn. And one of the things I read that you said was that communication isn't rocket science, but it is non-negotiable. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's not rocket science because as a communicator, and you've had a lot of them on your show and have surrounded yourself with a lot of them. I think they'd all the same say the same thing, and you've probably even said this yourself. When someone gives you guidance, half the time you sit there as a partner to them and are like, well, of course, right? So there's this moment, it's like, it's not rocket science, but I think the specialty of a communications professional, and especially someone who really loves it for the storytelling, they're able to look at things through the lens of so many different stakeholders. And if we're not communicating, we're not accomplishing anything. And communication goes two ways. So we're talking about listening and communicating outwardly. And but back to, you can't accomplish anything if you're not communicating. That's that life in the silos, which I don't believe is helpful. And that may be very much how I grew up professionally, so it might be skewed a little bit. But I've seen it ring true in a number of industries and with a lot of different leaders.
You're right. I've had a lot of the communication folks that I've worked with on this show. There's a reason for that. I'm close to them, and it's the common thread we all share is the love of story, the love of storytelling, and it's the best way there is to teach. And
It's the best way there is to communicate, Brian. It's not even just
yeah,
teach. It's,
yep,
I don't connect with a thing. I connect with you.
yeah,
And that's what makes change and inspires and gives people hope and confidence. It's the personal element. It's at the core, we're people who want to feel valued and loved. Even if
right.
we say we don't care, we do. And just acknowledging that and then communicating in a way that acknowledges that, it changes the game.
It does, and I have found, and I'd be curious for your take on this. One size doesn't fit all. That's why you've got to find so many stories. And the thing about it is they have to be authentic and real. And if they are,
Yes.
they will find their audience. They will find their community of interest.
Yes, I think that it's we can't be all things to all people, but there is a group of people that we were meant to connect with, right? So just really thinking about even in business, that so you can't be all things to all the stakeholders. You got to pick one. You got to pick two. Who's your primary? Who's your secondary with each message you're trying to send and each theme you're trying to understand because you can't do all of it. And I think that that's a hard truth for people. Like we can't be everything to everyone. We have to figure out where the priority lies and then where it will bleed over into other audiences. But you got to have a priority.
And I think that's interesting. And when you're a C-suite leader, you have 3 or 4 or 5 constituencies, and not every story is going. Not every story is going to work for that specific audience. And you have to really be aware of who's the audience for this initiative, who's the audience for this story that we're going to use to illustrate what we're trying to get done here.
100%. 100%. And I mean, I think a good example of that is if your investors hear that you're spending a ton of money on employee engagement and you're not setting it up to your investors in a way that this isn't just an expense, this is actually going to show return on revenue, then they're not going to get it. And you're sending messages that are mixed. So it's having someone with you to help guide you through that thought process, to make sure you're hitting on all the things. And it's actually a lot to think about. Back to, it's not rocket science, but it's a lot of heady stuff where you're just trying to organize your thoughts. And I love it. I love it as long as we can make it human, Brian, I love it. And I will
Yeah,
say that is entirely a product of our shared experience in the years that I had at Best Buy. And I feel very lucky to have been in an environment that understood that, and made me unafraid to stand for that now, because not all organizations believe like that. Even today, when empathy is a really popular word, it, that is not true for all organizations. So I will always stand behind the power of storytelling and humanity.
I I agree, and I think it is the most effective form of communication. So I want to pick on your or dig into your 30 years. So what do you think the most common mistake organizations make when telling their story?
They assume that everybody cares.
That
I
is
know
so
that's
good.
painful,
No, it's
but
so
it's
good.
true. It's true. Like, I hear these and I've been in part of meetings and they're like, this is what we want to say. And I have to stop and say, do your consumers care? Do your investors care? Well, sure. No, I mean, you want them to. That's cool. But
Right,
we got to look at
right.
this, because if they don't care, then we have to build some bridges. And we can't assume that everybody wants to know everything that we want to share.
I agree 100%. I remember being in a meeting one time. We were talking about something, and Heidi Pierce, I said, Heidi, you look like you've eaten some bad cheese. What's up? She's like, why does anybody actually even care about this?
This is why we love Heidi Pierce.
And
This is why we love her.
I couldn't even put it in a coherent sentence. And I just like, you're right. And I gave her the dry erase marker and lead us, Heidi, lead us. Um, you talk about humanness a lot. And I find myself nodding my head at you emphatically. I'm just wondering why you think it matters so much.
Because I think communication, especially today, has become so, I don't want to say mechanical, but it's not superhuman. Um, it's impersonal while it puts on a show of being personal. But I think there's this point of acknowledging other people's realities and understanding where they're coming from. For example, I have worked with many a company going through downsizing and layoffs. And, there's all these messages. We got to do it this way. You got to do this. And we have to say it's about growth and all. I get it. I get it. And it is about all those things. But usually, what my sentence in that moment will be, we have to step back and acknowledge the suck. Because unless we can acknowledge that we're humans and this sucks, the ability for that message to land with people with whom we need it to, it's not going to do it, or it's going to lessen the trust. Like, we got to build trust and show that we care. Um, and that's an example of what humanity looks like in coming to life, but it also comes to life when I work with thought leadership and leaders. And then, I can write a plan for them, but I can tell you that they might look at me and say, this isn't even how I talk or what I care about. Well, then, you know what? Let's talk. Let's find yourself in the messages that we need to put forward, because it has to be something that resonates with you. I mean, we're all really good. I think the world is great at the BS-o-meter. Like, we're going to see it. And unless we can find that personal connection, the human connection that creates authenticity, that's where humanness comes in.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's unequivocally true because, and we're all shaped by the experiences. You and I talked earlier this week about the backpack we all carry, and you never know what's in somebody else's backpack unless you're willing to take a little time and have them show you what's in their backpack. And we certainly don't need to be stuffing extra stuff in our backpacks. Now I've completely mixed up the metaphor, but the point is, we're all the sum of all the experiences we've had, the traumas, the days of outrageous victories, the day of painstaking defeats, and it all comes together and shapes our lens, our perspective, and shapes us as audience members to messages, doesn't it?
And therein lies the great mashup, right? So when I say that mashup of 3 decades, every high, every low, every relationship builds how you respond and how you position and how you look at the world. And we also have to acknowledge that that's not just an internal lens. You know, when you place that outward and I look at Brian, I'm thinking all of these things have helped shape Brian into who he is today. We're an evolution of ourselves, and all of those things feed into that. We never arrive, we're always on a journey, case in point, literally and
Yeah,
figuratively.
yeah,
And but we have to just embrace the fact that we are products of all of the experiences and acknowledge that when we're communicating from ourselves and when we are learning to understand who we're communicating with.
yeah. I think that's if a communicator can really intrinsically embed that, an understanding of that, I think it. And you're right. We're constantly evolving, and we're on this road to self-actualization that we never actually get to. Right? It's because
Yeah.
the journey is the thing. And I'll tell you on a personal note, um, my wife's journey, our journey with her breast cancer, I became heartbroken, but I became a better person through it. I learned things about myself. I learned about things, what's really important and what's not. And I'm wondering, as you look at your life, are there moments, are there times or something that happened that made you think, yep, this is how I want to be? Because Sue's cancer did that for me for sure.
Yeah. Well, so for me it goes back into the Wayback Machine. Um and my best friend when I was 19, uh I lost her in a very tragic, awful, someone took her life. And I was on the phone with her when it happened, and I didn't even know it had happened. No one did. She was missing and found 12 days later. And I don't say that to dwell into this dark space. But what happened after that, all I could think of when I spoke at her funeral was stop focusing on the what ifs and focus on the what nows, because that's what she would do. I could replay for hours in the fact that I was talking to her and I didn't know what was happening and I felt responsible. Or I could pick up this experience, learn from it, and decide how I wanted to move forward. So that's what I did. And I look at all the lives that her 19 years affected, and all I could think of was what could I do if I had 19 more? Um, and from that moment forward, I really worked to try and live in such a way that I could affect life for the good. And I choose to do that in such a way that I don't like to live quietly. And I shared this with you. And I don't say I'm not a loud person by any means, but when I say I don't like to live quietly, it means that I prefer to use my life as a platform to give people hope, to give people promise in life and shine a light on their purpose. And us choosing to even live this life is no different. This is also true for how I communicate to, like, even my life and communications ties back to wanting to shine a light on the good, the possibility and the purpose for the most people. So that's you had your story and that's mine, and I hope that not all people's stories have, darker beginnings, but sometimes, at least for me, I had to find a way to make good come of bad, and it very much shaped me in a way that I wouldn't change for anything.
That's um, that's very powerful. I can't even imagine that. Um, Thank you for sharing that with us, Don.
Aw.
Um, we're running short of time is flying by on us here. Can I do a lightning round with you? Can you do a
Oh
lightning?
boy. Okay. Let's
Are
let's
you
go.
ready? Um, What are the warning signs that an organization is losing touch with its audience? Give me one or two.
Uh, Revenues and disengagement or apathy. And it comes right down to those.
Okay, it's lightning round. You don't get that. You got to drop.
Okay. I'm going. No reasoning.
You write beautifully about heart-driven work, and you've referenced it several times in our talk here today, and it moved me. What is the one thing that you can look at and say, yep, this is a heart-driven place?
Oh, you know what? It's got to be a gut feel. It's a gut feel.
I think that's 100% right. When you look back, what's the one moment professionally that shaped you the most?
It was when I realized that empathy was not a weakness, and instead it was my superpower.
I love that. And I agree. I think it is your superpower. Okay, last one. What would you tell your younger self in your 20s, knowing what you know now? What advice would you give your younger self?
It's a waste of time to try and live your life the way that you think other people want you to live it, because really they don't care.
They don't. And the sooner you can unhook yourself from the prison of what other people think, the sooner you're going to be free. I agree. And I lied. I have one last one because I got to go back to being a family. What's the most memorable place you and Rodney have parked your home on wheels?
Livingston, Montana, on a private piece of property overlooking the river, the Yellowstone that was right there. There was no one around us, dark skies, wolves at night that we could hear in the distance. Nothing tops that.
Oh, that's so awesome. Dawn, I know people are going to want to follow you and your adventures. How do you feel about picking up some Instagram followers, or would you prefer
I can
not
deal.
to?
No, that's fine. I can deal with that. Go ahead and we can share that.
All right, good. We'll share that. We'll put a link on your story. I can't begin to thank you enough. I could talk to you for 2 hours, Dawn, and not
I
run
feel
out
the
of
same.
talk about.
I'm so thankful that you're doing this, Brian. For so many people, the platform,
And
using a platform for good. So admirable. Thank
well,
you.
thank you so much. And to be honest, it's completely filling me up, and it's such a gift. I hope you'll check back in with us next season because we're going to want to know where you are. So keep notes and have good anecdotes, and please keep in touch with me because I want to hear and know. And we want to get that husband of yours on.
We'll
So
get him on here. Yeah.
okay, I can't thank you enough, my friend.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
you're so welcome. That's it for the most important podcast ever. Big thanks to Dawn Bryant for sharing her story, but an even bigger thanks to you for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, and who wouldn't, please share it with somebody who's going to find it meaningful. And you can watch and listen on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. It's free and it helps us out. And wherever you get podcasts, we're available. I want to thank the crew here at Streetside Studio 7. I want to thank our hosts, Deja Blue House of Coffee. And I want to thank my friend Dawn again and all of you. We'll see you next time.